So the way I solved this problem was I created a branch on the spline where it's VR mode or not, so it casts to the game mode, it gets the player active from that game mode, and then it sets the relative transforms as per usual. The problem I found is that on the event begin play, it's trying to set the player location from the game mode at the same time the game mode is trying to spawn in that character, so it doesn't receive any transforms. So that's why I put the one delay, and I also made a boolean called game is ready. So if this cycle has completed, then this logic can then continue as per usual. So this is the reason for the delay and the jutting. This will have to be corrected once we create the in-game menu system, and then all this can just be automated at this point, so then we know what the player actor is when the game has begun, and the correct camera is associated with that. So if we go to VR game mode, you'll see that this is a bit upside down, but in the event begin play, we get all the actors of that class, because in theory that game mode should spawn in the correct pawn, rather than us having two pawns in the scene and only using one of them. We make sure that the game mode actually instantiates it correctly. And sometimes I found that it doesn't. So what I did is it basically checks all the actors in the scene of the correct class relative to the game mode. And if it's empty, which means there's no game mode, there's no player of that class, it will then spawn it and set that as the main reference. If there is one and it did manage to spawn it correctly, then it will just set the one that was spawned as the correct game mode. So that basically handles that logic. So if we delete those strings now, we can tuck them neatly into there. We can make this look a little bit nicer if we want to somehow. I think we'll just have to do it that way. And if we go back to Gameplot Desktop, it's basically doing exactly the same logic as the previous one. So at least we have a fail case now, so if a player actor is not spawned when the game is loaded for some reason, like it's clipping with something the artist has spawned into the world or something crazy like that, the logic handles itself, so it will always make sure that there is a player actor in the scene, and it's assigned that as the player case, so then the camera is always correct. This does need further testing to make sure that it all works as per usual, and most of the logic is inside of here with that delay. I'm going to find a way to optimize this. We'll do it inside of a menu, but this is very much for testing and not end product at this moment, because this is all going to be optimized into individual functions which are going to be called from the settings menu and not manually done like it is at the moment. So I do want to automate this so that it can't fail. So say for example, if it is enabled into VR mode, it's going to look for the desktop game mode right now, and that doesn't exist. So this is what happens basically. Nothing. And when you stop it, you're going to get a transform error because it's looking for something in the scene which doesn't exist because it hasn't been spawned in from the game mode. So if you get that bug, it's just because this spline is set incorrectly. But in theory, if you choose the desktop version, it should automatically update the correct player one. And if you choose the VR one, it should automatically update this one. So as long as the spline in the scene is correct to the game mode, then we're basically groovy.